these more in-depth reviews of the biggest games for week one. Here's the nice map that we made. And we'll start with Georgia Tech over in Boulder, Colorado. As I'm pulling up some stats. Going into the week, my biggest concern was Colorado hanging in the trenches. I think they did a decent job. I was kind of like not surprised with Caden Salter. I think he's going to be a decent quarterback for them. He's just not going to have that kind of lethal pass in him that like Shedeur Sanders kind of had, to where he'd be like super athletic, extend the pocket, and then be able to find the guy. I think he's going to be more like RPO type of guy where he goes through his checklist in his read, and then kind of was like, okay, well, if the open guy is not there down that checklist, then what do? Well, I run it. Where Shedeur Sanders like, oh no, this guy is obviously open, or he's doing some pre-snap reads that I don't think Caden Salter is going to be able to achieve, and it's going to be an interesting offense throughout the season. Georgia Tech did win 27-20. One player I didn't get to see his stats, but I'm going to talk about it real quick. Eric Rivers, we said, pay attention to him. He had over 1,000 yards last season for FIU. He had 3 receptions for 23 yards, his longest being 13. So it looks like he's going to be in the mix this season. Bailey Stockton was the highest producing receiver. A little bit farther down the depth chart in a way, or at least in terms of targets. He had 4 receptions for 48 yards. So Haynes King, going to be the same quarterback where he's very similar to, honestly, to Caden Salter, where he's going to have a checklist. If the checklist doesn't have a opening, then he's going to take the ball and run, which he did. He had 156 yards. That was kind of the difference here and why Georgia Tech won, and we're keeping their offense on the field. Very, very experienced offensive line. We talked about the guards, Keelan Rutledge and Joe Fusley. Those guys pretty solid there in the trenches for the Yellow Jackets. And the new look offense for Colorado looked like it was going to be enough to get the win, but it was not. It just wasn't. Wasn't there. Wasn't in the cards. I believe, Georgia Tech scored with about 1 minute and 7 seconds left, and then kind of put the ball back into Colorado's court, who kind of flubbed the management there towards the end. But that's kind of how the story is going to go for Colorado, especially in this post-Travis Hunter era. I mean, they lost a lot of production to the draft. You have Jadante Wester and Jimmy Horn Jr. also gone on top of Hunter and Saunders. So that's just a lot to ask. You had a huge influx of offensive linemen, and you only have Jordan Seaton. Seaton looked all right, I would say. Not too much in the struggling department. He's going to be even more solid next season. I just really like his development as he is an IMG product. And then I think the other thing I saw that was like, we were talking about the secondary for Colorado. We talked about Carter Stoutmeyer and DJ McKinney, who ended up getting an interception. That was pretty cool. Preston Hodge was another solid guy that had some pretty good numbers and was returning again for those DBs. And they kind of didn't allow Haynes King to really do anything through the air effectively. King went 13 for 20. Again, only 143 yards. That's just a pretty good stat line for your secondary, who did, I think, the best they could have done. It was just more of the front end stuff there for that Colorado defense. They have another influx of guys from the transfer portal, new linebacker core, Reginald Hughes from Jacksonville State, Montravius French from UTSA. Just wasn't good enough, unfortunately. Hughes and French were the top producers, though, on defense. French, we mentioned that he had 17 tackles for loss in the preview. He ended up getting 1.5, which for some people are like, that's not a lot, but that's a decent average. If you get 1 to 2 or 1.5 every game at the end of the season, you're going to have a pretty good stat line. And that's kind of the reason why Coach Brian brought him in. And I think those guys are going to continue to be solid enough. It's just the front end. They just could not hang in the trenches. And that's why Georgia Tech ended up winning. My prediction was a 9-point difference. It was very close. I think going into it, the line was 4.5 in favor for the Yellow Jackets. We were just 2 points away. But a possession and, a safety or a field goal. And it was just short of that. So this was probably one of our closest ones that we had from this past week, which is not too bad. And yeah, Colorado could not hang in the trenches enough as they allowed, again, 156 yards just from one player, 320 yards rushing in general. Got to get better. But it is a long season. We'll see how they do for the rest of the season as we